You're watching Epic Wealth and History. Every Tuesday and Friday, we uncover the histories they tried to bury.
The Mediterranean, 1571. A sea of empires, a cradle of faiths, a battleground for the soul of the world. For decades, the shadow of the Ottoman crescent had stretched across the water, a tide of conquest that seemed unstoppable. Christian Europe, fractured and squabbling, watched with dread. Then came a call to arms, a final desperate alliance to turn back the tide. What followed was not merely a naval battle. It was a cataclysm of wood, sail, and flesh, a collision of civilizations that would echo through the ages. This is the story of the last great gasp of the galley, the day the sea ran red, and the battle that saved the West. Pope Pius V, a man of ascetic piety and unshakable conviction, saw the Ottoman advance as an existential threat to Christendom. He dreamed of a holy league, a coalition to break the Sultan's naval power. It was a dream others shared but feared to pursue. The Republic of Venice, its vast trading empire, bleeding from Ottoman attacks, was on the verge of a separate peace. The Spanish Empire, under the young and fervent King Philip II, was wary of committing its formidable resources. Diplomacy was a maze of suspicion and self-interest, yet the Pope persisted, a frail old man weaving an alliance with the threads of faith and fear. His unwavering vision would be the catalyst, the moral force that compelled kings and merchants to look beyond their own shores and see a common enemy. The man chosen to lead this fragile coalition was Don John of Austria, the 24-year-old illegitimate half-brother of King Philip II of Spain. Handsome, charismatic, and burning with a desire to prove his mettle, he was a symbol of youthful Christian valor. But symbols do not win wars. His challenge was immense: to meld a fleet of over 200 galleys from rival nation Spain, Venice, the Papal States, Genoa, and others, since it was single, cohesive fighting force. The Venetians, led by the aged and experienced Sebastiano Venier, were proud and independent. The Spanish commanders were haughty and dismissive. Tension crackled in the air at the Allied base in Messina, Sicily. It was a powder keg of competing ambitions, and Don John had to become the spark that unified it, not the one that set it off. Across the water, the Ottoman fleet, under the command of Ali Pasha, sailed with the confidence of a force that had known little but victory. Their navy was a well-oiled machine of conquest, crewed by skilled sailors and filled with the elite Janissary corps. Ali Pasha was not a mere admiral. He was the Capudan Pasha, the Grand Admiral of the Ottoman Empire, and he carried with him the sacred banner of the Sultan, embroidered with the name of Allah 29,000 times in gold thread. For the Ottomans, this was more than a military campaign. It was a holy war, a Gaza, to extend the domain of Islam further into the heart of Europe. They were the masters of the inland sea, and they expected another triumph. The two armadas, the largest the world had ever seen, began their fatal dance in the early days of October. Don John, showing a decisiveness that belied his years, sought out the enemy. On the morning of October 7th, 1571, the Christian fleet entered the Gulf of Patras, near the town of Lepanto. Lookouts sighted the Ottoman sails on the horizon. The moment of fate had arrived. Against the counsel of some who advised caution, Don John gave the order to attack. He had one critical advantage: 6 massive Venetian galleasses, floating fortresses bristling with cannon, were towed ahead of the main line. As the Ottoman fleet advanced, these behemoths unleashed their broadsides. tearing holes in the Turkish formation before the battle had even properly begun. What followed was not a battle of maneuver, but a brutal head-on collision. The two lines of galleys crashed into one another, their bows locking together. The sea vanished, replaced by a sprawling, chaotic city of floating battlefields. The strategy gave way to savagery. This was a fight at point-blank range. Ottoman archers let loose clouds of arrows, while Christian arquebusiers replied with volleys of gunfire. The air grew thick with smoke and the screams of the wounded. The central core of the battle, where the flagships of Don, John, and Ali Pasha were locked in combat, became a charnel house. Soldiers and sailors boarded enemy vessels, fighting with pike, sword, and dagger in hand-to-hand combat for control of the decks. The turning point was as brutal as it was decisive. The Christian flagship, the Real, and Ali Pasha's flagship, the Sultana, were grappled together, their decks a slaughterhouse. A boarding party of Spanish soldiers and Italian marines fought their way onto the Turkish vessel. In the fierce melee, Ali Pasha was struck by a musket ball and fell. A Spanish soldier took his head and raised it on a pike. The sight of their commander's severed head had a devastating effect on Ottoman morale. The fight went out of them. Across the line, the Christian allies began to gain the upper hand, their superior armor and close-quarter fighting prowess proving decisive. To the north, the Ottoman left wing had initially overpowered the Christian right. A contingent of galleys from Genoa and the Papal States, it seemed the line might be rolled up. But the Christian reserve squadron plunged into the fray, stabilizing the situation and turning certain defeat into a bloody stalemate. On the southern flank, the Ottoman right wing tried to outflank the Christian left, commanded by the Venetian Agostino Barbarigo. In the fierce fighting, Barbarigo was mortally wounded by an arrow to the eye, but his line held, preventing a catastrophic encirclement. The battle was a series of these desperate individual struggles that collectively decided the fate of the world. When the smoke finally began to clear, the scale of the victory and the carnage was staggering. The Holy League had destroyed or captured nearly 200 Ottoman galleys. Tens of thousands of Ottoman sailors and soldiers were dead, and thousands more, including many of the elite janissaries, were captured. The Christians had freed over 10,000 Christian slaves who had been chained to the oars of the Ottoman fleet. The League's losses were heavy but paled in comparison. The Ottoman navy, once thought invincible, was shattered. But the cost was written in the blood that stained the water and the bodies that littered the shores. It was a triumph born of unimaginable horror. The immediate strategic impact was paradoxically limited. The Ottoman Empire, though reeling, possessed immense resources. Within a year, they had built a new fleet and regained control of the eastern Mediterranean. The Holy League, its purpose fulfilled, soon fractured, its members returning to their own rivalries. Yet, to judge Lepanto by mere territory gained or lost is to miss its profound, world-altering significance. The myth of Ottoman invincibility was broken forever. The victory was hailed across Europe as a miraculous deliverance, a sign of divine favor. It cemented the Counter-Reformation spirit and gave Christian Europe the confidence to resist further expansion. The battle also marked a pivotal moment in military history. It was the last major engagement, fought almost entirely between rowing galleys, and the first where the broadside cannon played a decisive, if not yet dominant, role. It signaled the slow, eventual shift from human-powered warfare to the age of sail and gunpowder. The human stories are etched in legend. A young Spanish soldier named Miguel de Cervantes fought at Lepanto and lost the use of his left hand, an injury he would later call his source of pride, claiming he had lost it for the greater glory of the right. He would go on to write Don Quixote. Lepanto endures not as a mere historical date, but as a symbol, a moment when a divided continent stood together against a common threat. For the Ottomans, it was a temporary setback, but one that checked their ambitions and defined a border between worlds. The sea that day witnessed more than a fight between empires. It witnessed the climax of an era. The echoes of the cannon fire, the clash of steel, and the prayers of thousands on both sides still resonate, a permanent reminder of the day the course of history for a moment hinged on the edge of a sword in a narrow Greek bay.